If there's one thing that this movie can teach us, is that Guillermo del Toro is not giving up that ape sapien costume anytime soon. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is our post-Geekout reaction for The Shape of Water, the new Guillermo del Toro monster love film. That's a sentence. But yes, for anybody who's not seen a post-Geekout reaction before, it is not a review. In the review, I sit down, think of everything I want to say, type it all out, and there are no spoilers. The post-Geekout reaction is just an open, honest discussion between the two of us about the thing that we just watched, and that does include full spoilers. However, this film is currently in super limited release. Like, very limited. I don't know how many theaters it's actually in, but holy crap, we had to search to find this thing playing somewhere.
When is it getting like a full release?
I don't know if it is, because I can imagine a lot of towns are going to go, it's about a woman who has sex with a fish man. Get your liberal hippie New York, Los Angeles crap out of our town. Yeah, so I don't even know if this is coming everywhere, but I know that a lot of people love to see anything Guillermo del Toro related, so there's probably a lot of you out there who's like, well, I want to know what you think about it, but I don't want you spoiling anything on. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go the vast majority of this not spoiling anything. Then at the very end of this video, we will talk about the end of the film, which is really the only spoilery thing in here.
Yep.
So basically, I'm gonna treat this like half review, half discussion between the two of us. But yes, I said that this was a movie about a woman who has sex with a fish man. But there's so much more to it, I guess. Yes. Basically, this is a film about a woman who is mute. She can't speak.
So she uses sign language.
Yeah, she uses sign language, which is cool that they decided to actually use real sign language in here. But the reason why she can't speak is because she was found abandoned in a river as a child with scratches across her neck, and it destroyed her vocal cords, so she basically can't speak. But she works as a cleaning lady at a secret government facility, and one day they end up bringing in some strange creature, and it's basically, I joked about this being Abe Sapien at the beginning of this. It's Abe Sapien. Like, it looks like the exact same suit from the Hellboy films. It looks like they just went in and tampered like the colors a bit and added some more fins on the back, but it's totally the Abe Sapien suit. But it can't, unlike Abe Sapien, it can't talk. It still loves eggs just like Abe Sapien, because, man, yo, I'm really trying to not make it seem like you did just rip off Abe Sapien here, but man, you're making it hard on me. But so she starts communicating with it, bringing it food, while the other secret government people are abusing it, and eventually she falls in love with it. And then it's all about her seeing if she can rescue it, seeing if she can release it back into the wild, seeing if she wants to release it back into the wild. But really, that's the basic premise of this. And it doesn't, you know, there's nothing really surprising. When you hear that concept, you can pretty much write everything there throughout the rest of this. But there are some things in here that I wasn't expecting when I went into it. Like, there's a whole subplot involving the Russian government trying to steal this creature. And I kept trying to figure out in the beginning, it's like, why on earth do the Russians care if we have a strange fish man in our possession? But then they were talking about how they're trying to get into space, and it's like, this is a creature that can breathe in both water and on land. Maybe if we study this, we can learn something about it. It's like, oh, well, you know, that's actually, I can see that. And this thing does take place in the 50s, and that's actually a very important part of the story.
Yeah, I think it's a really good time period for this particular story.
Yeah, because I do not know that this movie was going to have the fishman romance be a metaphor for everything. Because yeah, this is during the time of the civil rights movement, and it's also a time of massive homophobia all throughout, and this basically
also, like, you know, the space race.
The space race plays into it.
Which, the communist fear of communism and everything. Yeah,
which Michael Shannon's character is basically, well, Michael Shannon's character is Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon, it's been a long time since Michael Shannon did not just play the one same character over and over again, but he's really freaking good at that. Man, if you need a crazy guy who is trying to catch something, that's his thing. That's the one thing he does now. But also, I mentioned like the civil rights movement and also like widespread homophobia, because that both comes up, because both those things come up in this film, and it's really obvious that they are trying to go, hey, the romance she has for this fish creature, everybody keeps pointing at this fish creature and going, well, it's not even human, it's not like us, it's different from us, and they're trying to use that as a metaphor for people looking at anyone who isn't like them with discrimination. Her next door neighbor, who is this artist who has been doing like ad campaign art, he is gay, and he develops a crush on this guy working at the diner, and I won't go into the details of like where that goes, because as I said, I'm trying to avoid all spoilers.
Yeah, like, another reason why I feel like it's a good, like the 50s is a good time period is because the artist that she like basically lives with, I think he did like movie posters like back in the day.
Oh, you think that's what they were hinting at? Because they do hint at one point that like he did stuff before this and they kind of kicked him out.
Yeah, I mean, and he lives above a theater, and you know, during the 50s and 60s and stuff, TV was new.
Yeah.
So people were no longer going to the theater anymore because...
Which plays a big role in this.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's another good reason why it was set in that time period. Like, that's a perfect time period for this story.
Yes, but as I was also saying there, he is gay and he's developing a relationship with this guy who works at a diner. But they make sure to bring up the fact that that was not an acceptable thing back then, and they use that kind of like, you'd have to kind of be blind to not see like, oh, they're trying to use the romance with the fish man as like, you know, symbolism for this, because I mean there is even an exact moment in there in which her next door neighbor is basically going like, I know you want to get him out of this facility, but I'm not going to help you. It's like, it's not even human. We don't even know what this is, and how on earth can you be with this thing? And she's like, well, if you don't help him, then you're not human either. And then like he leaves and he faces some discrimination of his own, and then he's back like, you know what, yeah, okay, let's do this. And it's like, yeah, okay, I see what you're trying to say here. However, this gets into my problem with this film. I understand that they were trying to use that as a metaphor for like all the discriminations out there, especially at this time period in America. However, at no point did I look at the fish man like he was human. Like that's what they were trying to sell me on, especially for this romance. And I wasn't looking at it like it was Beauty and the Beast or anything. I was looking at it as like, do you even know if he has like conscious thoughts? Like, I'm assuming he does, but like he just acts animalistic at all times in this. And
not all times.
Not all times, I guess. But I mean, like, there's a moment when she first meets him and she starts teaching him sign language, and I was like, oh, this is when we're going to learn that he actually has a mind behind that. He actually is a thinking being. They're actually going to communicate, develop a relationship like across the boundary of language because they're going to use sign language. It's going to be great. That doesn't really happen in here. He really does just, I mean, like, yeah, when they hug each other, it looks sweet. But like, they never actually talk or communicate really, that I felt. I mean, there's a moment in which she realizes that she is going to have to let him go. She can't keep him around, and he is going to have to leave. And like, she has like this big dream sequence of how she would tell him goodbye, and then it cuts back to him at the dinner table with these eggs, and I was like, he's just kind of acting like a dog with a food bowl. I did not look at him like he was human. I didn't get that connection, and I feel like this entire film like revolves around that. Like, you need to sell that in order to make me believe it. And like, you could buy that she was passionate about this. Like, I bought that 100% in here, that like she actually cared about this. But I never bought the reason why. I mean, like, she gave an explanation to her neighbor in which he was like, when I go in there, he doesn't look at me as someone who can't speak. He doesn't look at me like the person that as a cleaning lady. He's excited to see me. He looks forward to seeing me and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, but when you actually see him, he just kind of acts like an animal towards her. Like, yeah, he's excited, but for the same reason that your dog would be excited, like when you bring him food. Like, Guillermo del Toro said that his inspiration for this film was King Kong, because he didn't want King Kong to die. He wanted to see King Kong fall in love with this woman and the two of them run off and be happy together. But I keep thinking back to King Kong. It's like, King Kong was way more expressive than this monster. And like, I actually got way more personality out of King Kong. Not even like the new Peter Jackson one, which, yeah, in that one he's very emotional. Hell, even in Kong Skull Island, he's very emotional. But even going back to the original one, I was like, yeah, I see humanity in this guy. I could see sadness in Fishman when he was sad. But like, I never they introduced this idea of him learning how to speak with her. And I was like, okay, that's good. That's how we're going to get to see like the person inside the Fishman. I was like, that never really came up to me. It really feels like, I mean, the only thing we ever see him learn how to sign is eggs.
And music.
Oh, there's a moment when she signs music.
Yeah, because she was like, she brought in a record player and played music for him. So like, basically when he popped it, it was like, oh, what's this? She signed music and started playing the record.
Yeah, but speaking of when she first starts going in there, the first time that she goes in there, she brings him food. And then the second time she brings him music. And like, man, this has always been kind of my problem with Guillermo del Toro. And I know that when you are in the geek community like I am, it's kind of like a mortal sin to criticize Guillermo del Toro because he's the most beloved filmmaker out there to some people. But I always feel like Guillermo del Toro has amazing ideas. But when it comes to his execution, I feel like he's got so many ideas in his head. He's just like, all right, now let's just get it out there. It's like, no, man. You gotta take your time to build up the story that you've developed already in your head. And I feel like this is a really good example of that, because the moment that she goes in and sees him the first time, she is ready to run off with him for, like, she is ready to jump the fish man here. Like, the first time she sees him, she's always like, oh, and I was like, the only way that you could be like that is if this just happens to be your secret fetish, that you're just into fish dudes. Because, like, the first time she sees him, and he's just like, eggs, give me that egg, just in the water. And she's like, oh. And like the second time when she brings in music and more like, oh no, music, yes, see this? And I was like, it's still, like, you've literally only had one encounter with him so far. It was just, I was like, how the fuck are you already in love with this thing? Like, it really feels to me like Guillermo del Toro was like, this is going to be the love story between this woman and this fish creature. And I was like, cool, tell a love story. Not tell, like, the story of a woman and a fish man who have hooked up. Like, that's what this was. Like, I did not buy the romance in here at all. I bought the emotions behind it. I guess that's a good way of putting it. Because, yeah, there's, like, a whole sequence where she fills up her entire apartment with water, and they're, like, swimming and hugging and embracing in the water. I was like, oh, God, that looks beautiful. But I did not believe any of the story leading to this point to make her be like this. That was my problem with it.
Like, I kind of felt like she understood, like, what the monster was going through, because not only can they both not speak, but they both are in a society where no one wants them to speak. Like, oh, the Fishman is a monster, therefore whatever he has to say means nothing, and oh, you're a woman, your opinions don't matter. Also, she's not just a woman, she's like a woman with a disability. Well, yeah, it's like... Which is another, back in this time, another thing people did not look fondly upon. No, but it's like, the thing is, a lot of men just like, oh, she doesn't speak, that's good, one less thing for me to worry about. That's literally a thing that comes up at one point in here. Which I thought this film was going to take a very weird turn at one point. How so? Again, I can't really spoil it that much, but it had to do with a scene between Michael Shannon and her, in which I was like, are you about to, where the fuck did this come from? But it's like, alright, yeah, I can also kind of understand, like, he's a power trip kind of guy, and like, you know, she is somebody who is vulnerable, can't fight back. Can't speak up, literally. Yeah, like. And like that's exactly the type of character that Michael Shannon is playing in here, is literally like someone who would go after someone like that. So I was like, all right, I can buy it, but it kind of seems to have come out of nowhere, I guess. Like, I didn't buy any stuff going into it before, which again, that's kind of my problem with Guillermo del Toro. Like, a lot of stuff is like, yeah, in my head, this is gonna be a great scene. And it is a great scene, but you just put it in the film. Like, I wonder if there's like gonna be like deleted scenes where it like leads up to it, no? I don't know. Again, this is just kind of what Guillermo, I've always had this problem with Guillermo del Toro. This is kind of just what he does. He just kind of like goes, yeah, isn't that great? And it's like, it is, but dude, the, you know, lead up, like, story. Yeah, that's just always kind of been a problem I had with him. Like, Pan's Labyrinth, everybody loved that film. That was amazing. I thought the visuals were stunning. I thought the story was
pretty good. It's not bad. Yeah. That's
Stuff like that is why I just stick to drawing instead of writing stories, because I have nowhere to go with my characters.
Guillermo del Toro is like, that's why geeks love Guillermo del Toro so much. He's that guy who made the films about his OCs. But it's like, you ever tell your friends about your OCs and their eyes just kind of glaze over halfway through and they're like, Guillermo del Toro is kind of that guy, except his visuals are so damn good. But yeah, again, like, I'm not saying he's a bad storyteller, not at all. He's an alright storyteller. Alright, not bad. But his visuals are so fucking stunning, and his imagination is so incredible. It kind of like, there's like, alright, here's his storytelling, here's all the other stuff that he does, and so it's because of that I'm always like, I can't quite get up here with everybody. Like, I feel like most people like Guillermo del Toro is up here. I am in between these two. That's where I am on him. Man, I'm sorry to all the Guillermo del Toro fans out there. But again, I know I'm in the minority on this one. This thing is like a 95, which, I was about to say this thing has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. That just means 95% of people liked it. I like this. I would be in that 95%, so that doesn't mean anything. But I do know that there are so many people out there who just love everything that he does. I think everything he does is pretty darn good. And this is another film that I'm like, this is pretty darn good. So, okay, we've kind of talked about, like, her relationship to the fish man to death. Like I said, it's, you know, I understand what they were going for, but because I don't think they built it up enough, it just didn't
does
work.
feel one-sided.
Yeah, like, I didn't get enough personality from the fish man. That was, like, the fact that I still keep calling him the fish man is a problem with this. Like, if this is a romance between these two people, I need a fucking name for the other guy. Like, I got nothing on this guy. It really is, like, one side is the perfect way of putting it.
But I kind of feel like maybe that was intended, like he's supposed to be mysterious.
True, I guess. Yeah, alright. It's one of those where it's like, man, I understand what they're going for, but it's like, I
don't like it.
I know what I like and I don't like this. Listen, I have no problem with the fishman.
Heck, Aquaman's my best friend.
I just want like the title card for this to be me, like just they're like this with a giant like fish man next to me, and it just says, "Is Aaron fish phobic?"
No,
like just the most clickbaity title you could imagine.
No, it'll be the fish head from SpongeBob. Like, is Aaron a fish phobic person?
But you know what I'm saying. It's like, I understand like what this was a metaphor for. I understand why she is supposed to fall in love with him. But again, because he just acted way too animalistic to me, and we don't see like any human connection between them other than her just looking at him like, oh, like she's like a schoolgirl in like class, like spying on the boy she has love for. Like,
notice me, senpai.
Notice me, fish senpai. Like, because, like, again, if we had just seen, like, him, like, you know, give some sign language there, and, like, communicate more than just eggs, and, oh, no, at the end.
Eggs and music.
Eggs and music, and at the end, he does say one other thing.
Yeah, he does, like...
But, again, it's like, dude, if that had come, like, halfway through this movie, I would be way more on your side right now.
Yeah, like, it's a little too late. Like, if we saw her, like, teaching him more sign language and help him communicate back.
That was exactly what this was missing. Like, the moment that, spoiler alert, halfway through this film, they do actually break him out of the facility and he spends the rest of the time back at her apartment, which I guess I kind of already spoiled when I talked about the scene where she floods her apartment.
Yeah.
So not spoiler alert?
Yeah, it's like, I thought like the moment they were gonna break him out of the lab, they're gonna go like straight to the ocean, but...
There's actually a reason that they give of why they can't go there.
Yeah.
But then again, like halfway through that, I kind of thought to myself, wait a minute, if you can get him into a van, just get him to the fucking, like, shore yourself. Like, that, he should be flying on water for, like, 2 hours.
Yeah.
I know how far Baltimore is from the ocean. So yeah, that was kind of a problem I had as well.
Yeah, it's like, I kind of felt like another reason why she wanted to keep it in his tub is like she wants to like.
She wanted to be with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which I mean that does come into play, like this whole thing of like, okay, well I have to let him go, but I don't want to let him go. But shit, I was about to say something a moment ago and I forgot. But yeah, I thought, okay, I remember what it was. But you nailed it. What this movie is missing to make me buy this romance, when she breaks him out and takes him back to her apartment and he's there for a month in the tub and he's just there living in the tub, I needed a montage of her teaching him to talk. I don't mean like actual words, I mean sign language. Teaching him more sign language other than eggs, music. And again, at the end, it's almost implied that she did, but we didn't see that.
Yeah.
And I needed like a sequence of them learning to talk and then him like learning to say things to her and her like teaching him about like the world around them or stuff. But I mean, like, there's a moment where like he kind of breaks out of the apartment when she's not there, goes into the neighbor's apartment and does something over there. Again, not gonna spoil it. But I was like, yeah, that's a total like animal move. That is not a human move. That's an animal move. And then like the neighbor says, I'm not mad. He's an animal. We can't expect more from him. And she doesn't even really like argue with him on that. And I was kind of like, yeah, man, Guillermo, again, I know what you're going for, but again, you're really just making this seem like a woman hooking up with an animal. It's just, it's just weird, man.
It's like, he's not quite animal, but not quite human.
Yeah, he's not quite, like, I'm not saying 100% animal, but again, it was kind of like, I understand, like, for her to have like this deep connection, it's like, you're the only one I can love, needs to be more human, especially when you're making it a metaphor for all the prejudice going on in society in the 1950s. Try a little bit harder to not make him such an animal.
I mean, it reminds me of that like argument. It's like, if we're gonna let gay people marry, then what next? People marrying their own
That's
cats?
something that
like,
you hear all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, this ain't gonna help those people in the South.
Yeah.
I grew up around some of those people. This ain't gonna convince them. Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. But let's get into the rest of this film. One thing that, it is a small thing, but this is something that I loved about this film, and it is her job. She is the lady who cleans up this secret government facility. I have said for years that I want a movie about that person. Because here's the thing. I believe a lot of government conspiracies, but I don't believe the sci-fi ones. Area 51, yeah, we know there's a base there and they're doing something, but to the people who think it's aliens, it ain't aliens. To the people out there who's like, oh, well, they faked the moon landing, we know for a fact that didn't freaking happen. You know, all these other weird, like, oh, what happened in Roswell, what happened with this, all these other, like, oh, the government knows about, like, aliens and all that stuff. I guarantee you none of them are true. It would be cool if some of these sci-fi theories were true, but they're not. And I can guarantee you the reason why. Someone always has to clean up the toilets. The 4-star generals and scientists are not cleaning up their own shit. Someone has to be a janitor at these facilities, and if these facilities have been around for generations, at some point in time, one of them would have come out and gone, listen, man, I hate this job. They don't pay me nearly enough. Get me in touch with a news source. Yeah, some of this shit would have come out because there's going to be janitors everywhere you go. Someone has to mop up the puke. It's not going to be the really big guys making six-digit incomes every single year. 6 digits, that's weird. 6 figures. So yeah, I've always said, it's like, yeah, man, the fact that everybody poops is kind of like the big Achilles heel to any big conspiracy theory out there. And this is the one that went, okay, let's see what would happen with those people. It's like, yeah, I'm glad that someone finally thought about this thing, because every single time that I see a film, and I'm not kidding you, almost every single time that I watch a movie like Independence Day or something like that, where it's like, here's the secret government facility where we've been keeping an alien for 5 decades. I was like, where's the dude with the mop and the bucket in the background who, as soon as this is over with, is going straight to the news and going, you won't believe the shit I saw at work today. And these...
You won't believe the shit I had to clean up.
It was moving. And had teeth. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to like come in here and go, it's like, well, the government would like completely make sure that they don't videotape anything because they would take away all cameras. Man, back in the day, they didn't have a way. They didn't know anybody could like have a camera on their phone. Somebody could easily sneak in there with a little tiny camera and then just done. Step out, get it developed, done.
Like that's another reason why like this is a good reason why this takes place in the 60s and 50s, like because
again, no one with a cell phone would have been able to like keep this under wraps. People would be taking selfies with the fish man. But also, like the thing that they did with Russia in here, I really dug that because so often in films like this, when there's like the Russian spy who is like trying to, like infiltrate the American secrets, they're always the bad guy. The Russian spy working at this facility, he kind of thinks that this fish man is beautiful as well. Not in like a romantic way, but
like
more in like
a science way. He is the absolute true form of a scientist.
Yeah.
He wants to preserve this creature. He wants to learn it, and he knows by learning its ways, it has to be alive.
Yeah, because the government wants to come in and just kill the thing.
And like dissect it.
And dissect it, because like, hey, listen, that's the only way that we're going to figure this out. It's like, no, we can study this thing, keep him alive. And when it comes down to that point where it's like, man, they're going to kill the fishman, and even the Russians are like, well, kill him first, so that way they can't get his hands on it. Give him this, like, they give him a syringe full of stuff that would just liquefy his insides, so they can't study anything on it. He helps them escape, and I was like, shit, man, it's kind of nice to see that it's like, hey, there's good people on both sides.
Yeah, it's like when he was like talking with the other Russians, it's like he said, I want to learn, and Nerd said, it's not your job to learn, it's your job to keep the Americans from learning.
Yeah. So let's see. Also, Michael Shannon in here is great, but again, he's doing the same thing he's done 1,000 times over, but he does it well. So yeah. But we want to talk about like all the things that are supposed to be like metaphors and symbolisms of other things going on at the time. There is a moment in here that I found to be brilliant, and it's so small, but it involves Michael Shannon, and it's a moment, like, throughout this whole thing, they've been having this little, like, secret thing about the color green supposed to be representing the future. Her artist neighbor who is making
Jell-O posters
for Jell-O, he makes it into red, and then he brings it in, and he goes, yeah, they want to be green, they say green is the future. There is, and that comes back at another point in time in here, which you see like Michael Shannon actually making, eating green Jell-O like way later in the film. But there is a moment in here.
I've also noticed that like when the artist, he would bring home pie, it was always it was always green pie. It was like, it's supposed to be key lime pie, but
it was key lime pie, but it was like radioactive green.
That was green Jell-O pie. Yeah. I'm sorry. I know I've had key lime pie before. It does not look like that.
I was looking at that pie the whole time, like, dear God, that is the nastiest ass green pie I've ever seen.
And Eliza, she would just like spit it out because it just tasted so nasty.
Which again, I think is supposed to be like a metaphor for like green representing like his way. Like green represented what I don't know what term to use here, but the man, for lack of better terms. Green represents the world that the man wants to live in. I don't know what other term to use for it, but because, yeah, like, key lime pie keeps getting served at the diner, and, like, Eliza doesn't like the lime green pie. She wants to keep spitting it out. Also, like, the green Jell-O. He brings in a poster with red Jell-O. They're like, nope, gotta be green Jell-O. Go back and do it again. And then later on, you see Michael Shannon. He's eating green Jell-O. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But there's a moment in which, like, his wife wants a Cadillac. So he goes to buy a Cadillac, and this, like, salesman appears on a rotating car display, and he just appears like Satan. Like, just like...
No, like he was like behind the car, but as the car rotated, he came into view.
That's what I mean. It's like a... It really is just like the devil on his shoulder, just being like, hello there. Just like he hovered into place because of this thing. And he comes in there and is like looking at a Cadillac, and he gives him like the best car salesman pitch I've ever heard. Like his delivery alone was worth the price of admission to this film. But Michael Shannon goes, I'm just looking around. He goes, well, I'll tell you what you need. You need this car right over here. And he goes, I don't like green. And he goes, it's teal. And that's the color of a successful man. That's the color of the future. Like, he even says these words. And he says, you look good in that. You belong in that. And it's like,
you are the man of the future.
You are the man of the future. And he ends up buying this green car. He says it's teal, but it's green. And I was like, that is a fucking brilliant moment in this film. Like, I could totally see an editor coming in here, because this film was over 2 hours, and I can totally see a studio coming in here and going, well, we need to edit out everything involving this car, because it's taking up like maybe 5-10 minutes of the entire film when you take every scene that has to deal with this car out of the movie, and that'll help get it down some. I am so glad they kept it in there, because that sequence is freaking brilliant. Because like they've established green is the color of the man, and
the future,
but
the
but
future
not
that
really.
the man wants.
That's it, exactly. That is the color of, like, because this entire film, like, it's supposed to be like a story that is a metaphor for anybody in society who the man doesn't agree with. You know, like people of color, gay people, women, people with disabilities, and that car, it's supposed to kind of be America. Like the America that the man wants to create. And when he gets him in that car, he goes, you look good in that car. You belong in that car. And it's like, that's kind of like the voice of the devil telling the man, basically, yeah, don't pay attention to any of these other people who need help. Don't pay attention to the people with disabilities or women or people of color or gay people. That's yours. You earned this. This car, that's all yours. This belongs to you.
Everything belongs to you.
That's exactly what it was like. That's what that entire scene is about, and god damn, that's a good scene. And it's just about Michael Shannon buying a fucking car. Again, I come in here and I criticize kind of the way that Guillermo del Toro tells stories and sets up the stories in his films, but he's a great filmmaker. And this scene, like, proved it. Like, beyond anything else in this movie, this one scene with the car, I was like, oh my god, I forgot like what you could do sometimes. And this has nothing to do with the fish man or anything, but I get what you're doing with this scene. It's brilliant. Yeah, so I was blown away by that. And it's the smallest scene, but I had to make sure that I brought it up. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the actual spoiler stuff. Spoiler time for anybody who has not seen this. So, final score on this thing, I would give it like a 7.5 or an 8. Because I really like the stuff in here, I just don't think the execution is all that great.
I understand. I'd give it like an 8.5.
Okay, yeah. I definitely think you enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, it gets revealed that the Fishman has the power to heal people by touching them. And they did say that the people of the jungle thought of him as a god. So it's like, okay, he has like almost godlike powers. That's okay, that makes sense. But at the end of this, when Michael Shannon actually starts learning who took him, he then is able to track down Octavia Spencer, who we haven't really talked about in here. Octavia Spencer is playing a role that Octavia Spencer plays 9 out of 10 times, and I kind of hate that because, yeah, she's good in the role, but I mean, she is the sassy black friend who is just like, oh yeah, well my man said this, and like she just keeps talking, and it's like, that's a character she plays a lot. And I feel like after last year when she was in, oh god, what was that film that she was in?
Hidden Figures?
Yes, after that, I was like, that really feels like that should have been like your moment to take off and go, I don't have to do this role anymore. And it's kind of a shame to see her back in there, but
maybe this is like a prequel, like maybe
she made this before that, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe she was like working as a cleanup in the lab, and then she moved on to
I honestly did have kind of that thought that I was like, it's so weird that she's in 2 films like within a year apart from each other that are about the space race.
Also about discrimination.
But yeah, so he then goes to Octavia Spencer. Octavia Spencer, like her husband tells him where to find the Fishman. He goes to track him down, finds them there at the pier, and he ends up shooting them. He shoots her friend, shoots her, shoots the Fishman, and for a second there, I honestly thought they were going to end on that. Because he said this was his like reaction to King Kong. That he always said that like he wanted to see King Kong and the woman hook up. He didn't want to see King Kong die. And I feel like this was him going, okay, I'm going to make my version of King Kong, but instead I'm going to make the audience want to see them fall in love. I'm going to make the audience want that thing that I want in King Kong, and then I'm going to give them what King Kong gave me to make that audience feel the way that I felt at King Kong. And I don't know how I would have felt if he had done that. That actually kind of would have been a ballsy move. But then the Fishman gets up, kills Michael Shannon, and heals her, but he heals her by taking her into the water, and then like he kisses her, and it's kind of implied that he just restores life to her, but it's also kind of implied that like he touched the scars on her neck, and I don't know if you read it the way that I did, but I kind of read it like he healed them to become gills, or like maybe with a kiss he gave her the ability to breathe out the water.
I did not realize, I did not think of that at all.
That's kind of what I thought, yeah.
No, here's what I thought.
Okay.
I thought Eliza is a fish person. I thought the scars on her neck were actually gills.
I had that thought too.
Because she was found in a river.
Yes.
And I feel like because she spent so much time on land, she had no need for the gills. So that's kind of why they sort of faded away. And also why she and the Fishman could not talk. They don't use language the way people do.
I had that thought too, but then I went, nah, I don't think so. I'm going back with my other one. But if you thought this too, okay, maybe that's a wider accepted theory than I was thinking. Because I thought like, okay, that's too crazy when I thought of that.
Also, because of that, I felt like it was less awkward. The relationship, because
it doesn't work better. Yes.
Yes, it's less bestiality.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a thought that I had there for a second. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, that couldn't happen, that's crazy. But I had that thought and I was like, nah, I don't think that happened. And then I went back to my other theory. But if you're also saying this, I'm very interested to see like which one it was.
Also, there's no way that those scars would have damaged her vocal cords, because the vocal cords are like down here, but the scars or her gills were on the sides. So
interesting.
I don't think...
I would not, you know what, thinking about Guillermo del Toro, I would not put it past him for that to be the answer.
Yeah, also...
That does seem up his alley.
Also, considering how doctors were back then, they probably did just assume that those scars on her side caused her to lose her voice, because you saw how they reattached his fingers?
That was such... Ooh.
Yeah, doctors back in the 60s were not the best.
That was one of the weirdest running things in this entire film, is watching his fingers slowly decay. Yeah, okay. But yeah, I think the ending of this is like, okay, it's supposed to be a fairy tale ending. It is a fairy tale ending. So I totally get that. But again, I don't really have... Man, I don't really have anything quite to add to it. It is just kind of like, okay, that's good. You did that.
You know, I find it funny that you're trying to avoid spoilers, and yet the movie poster for this is kind of a big spoiler.
The movie poster for this is the very last scene of the film. But I did, I guess that is something we can talk about. I did kind of find it interesting that it just ends there with them in the water, like kissing and embracing it, and like the neighbor is giving voiceover, and he's basically like, well, she lived happily ever after. And I was just kind of like, oh, so she just leaves with this fish man, and they just go. Okay, interesting.
All right, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. What she got back there, she stole from a government facility. She wasn't going to be okay. Yeah, I'm far more concerned about Octavia Spencer's character. What's going to happen to her? She's left there in this world, and she's an accomplice. Then again, the only person who knows she was an accomplice was Michael Shannon, and he's dead. So I guess she's actually okay. I guess she's going to be okay then. Yeah, and man, it just kind of makes me think of like how, yeah, this really is a film where there's not that much to spoil in it, because it's meant to just be a fairy tale, and the only real spoiler is, yeah, it plays out. The thing that you think is going to happen happens.
Yes.
But yeah, okay, so I don't really have anything else to add. You?
No, I thought it was like a nice film. Like you said, everything like plays out, everything is nice and dandy. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this has there's a musical number in this, and it's like, all I can think of is like, this is better than half of La La Land.
Oh, no. I've heard from some people who were offended, or not offended, but they just were like, oh, come on, man, you're upset. Like I have heard from some people who expressed to me their views on our review of La La Land. And I was
Any
like,
death threats?
No. They were very respectful, very polite to me, expressed their views in a very adult manner, and I respect that for them. but it's making me go, you know what, I'm going to stop beating up on La La Land.
Well, that being
Moonlight won, I'm happy. That's all I care about.
all right, but like I interesting. Like no, I'm not gonna talk about it anymore.
No. I was just thinking, what if at the Oscars this year, a film wins and then halfway through someone comes on and goes, I'm sorry, we weren't supposed to get this. It goes to The Shape of Water. and then
No, The Greatest Showman. Because that's by the same people who made La La Land.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yes. So it's like, Greatest Showman won. Oh, wait, no, it was a mistake. The Shape of Water won.
Am I the only person who is not excited for the Greatest Showman? Like, I keep looking at it as like, this could be an amazing story, but it doesn't look to me like an amazing story.
I just feel like there's just going to be like too much hype over it the way they did with La La Land. I hate saying that, but yeah.
Man, but that's the other thing. It's got Hugh Jackman in there, and Hugh Jackman is amazing. And it's got not Zach Braff, but Zac Efron, who can do some really great stuff. However, both of them also have a history of picking just awful projects that just waste their amazing talent on. And I'm like, oh god, can this be like the time when you multiply negatives, or is it gonna be just double that? Like, oh, yeah.
We'll find out. I mean, we're gonna have to like see it anyhow, I believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. When this eventually comes to your town, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. And you know, I hope that we didn't really spoil anything in here for you guys. I hope that we didn't get too far into it. I'm going to try and start doing more post-Geekout reactions where we save the spoilers for the end.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes our conversations just go there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of the post-Geekout reaction, just open, honest thoughts.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should like do like a cut to this scene, cut to this part to avoid spoilers. Yeah, that kind of thing.
It's something that I'll tinker with. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and again, come back next time. Bye.
Bye.